Detroit, Michigan. And the company was started by my uncle, Barry Gordy. Since this is Black History Month, uh, Barry Gordy is a significant figure in Black history in that uh, the record industry, as most industries um, in the early 20th century, were not run by Black people. Black people, or Negroes as they were called back then, were recording artists on record labels. But as far as someone actually owning a record label and actually running a record label, making the decisions at a record label, it was very uncommon for a Black person to run a record label. And fortunately, our family was a family of entrepreneurs, having moved from Georgia with the migration north, as a lot of Black people did. They moved to Detroit and established different businesses and put themselves in a position to where some of my aunts uh, got into the music industry. And when Barry decided that he wanted to have his own record company after having been a successful songwriter for other artists and finding out that getting paid for his work was very challenging, he decided to go from a creator to an owner, and making that transition with the help of his family, financial help, and then support as far as helping build the company, led him to meet creative people in Detroit. Uh, on the top of that list is Smokey Robinson. And Smokey Robinson, very close and able to find other recording artists. I'm going to share a picture of Barry Gordy with the group. Barry is standing up, playing the guitar, and underneath him, I hope you guys can see that, underneath him are the Supremes sitting on the ground with the recording producers, Holland, Dozier, and Holland. And Holland, Dozier, and Holland wrote a number of hits for the Supremes, Four Tops, a number of Motown recording artists, and they're standing outside of Hitsville, USA in Detroit, Michigan. So Barry's standing playing guitar. And this was very unique at that time. And the most unique part is that they had hit after hit after hit after hit. Their output of #1 records throughout the world was extraordinary. It was unprecedented, basically, for any company, much less a company run by a Black person, to have that string of successes. And it went on for a number of years. With that responsibility, with that success also came responsibility. And Barry was able to put out a record by Martin Luther King was organizing different marches around the country. And Motown Records at that time was able to record and distribute one of his marches, the Great March on Washington. And this helped, along with the television networks at that time, to promote civil rights and help spread the message that Black people were, and a big part of Motown's mission at that time was to provide an image to the world that hadn't been presented to the world on a regular basis prior to that. That Black people had sophistication, that they were well-spoken, well-dressed, and just as equal and viable human beings as anyone else on the planet. And even though that may sound a bit trite now, that wasn't the case back in the 60s. So Motown not only was involved with entertainment, but it was also a significant part in the march towards equality, civil rights, and just the overall view of the world that the world had of Black people. So I'm saying all that to say that I'm very proud to have been born into that family. I didn't have anything to do with it, but to also honor that and to make a point that as we go forward, talking about the music business, that we don't lose sight that music can have a significant impact on our culture, on the way that people are viewed, and can spread messages and be a way not only to communicate joy, but also pain and hope. So that being said, as I mentioned, I work at Spirit Production Music. That is one facet of the music industry. And Cheryl has informed me that the students that are in this class are interested in the different facets of the music industry. And I can understand why. The music industry, I did a little prepping for this. The current music business revenue in the last year globally was $20 billion. In the US, it was $7 billion. So there's a lot of money to be made in the music business. And there are a number of ways to make money in the music industry. Different sectors of the music industry, and therefore different careers in the music industry that you can easily find online. You can investigate and see for yourself. But the different sectors in the music industry are the recording industry itself, where hip hop artists, rock artists, country artists release recorded material into the world, and it's distributed in a number of different ways, whether it's physically or digitally. Streaming services, which is how we get to hear music, whether it's on Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, even. These are services that present the music that they get from the record companies or independent artists. But the main record companies are EMI, Sony Music, Universal Music, and Warner Music. They release over 85% of the music that's consumed. These are giant corporations that release a wide variety of music, like I mentioned, rock and roll, hip hop, orchestral music. And at this time, even though it changes often, hip hop is the highest selling genre of music, but it kind of goes back and forth between hip hop and rock and sometimes pop, followed by rock, EDM, then R&B, soul, country, and other genres of music are on the list. So, we all know different recording artists that present music, and we're interested in not only what goes on in front of the camera, the microphone, but what goes on behind the microphone. So all of these different sectors, there are different structures and supports that go along to make sure that all of these business sectors operate efficiently. and profitably, with emphasis on profitability. There are Baby or Distro Kid or TuneCore that get the music from the record companies or independent artists and get them onto the streaming services like Spotify. There is a big sector of the music industry that is dedicated to touring and live performances, which has been decimated due to the pandemic, since no one can go to a theater and see someone perform, or a club and see someone perform currently. But we all have hope that that will return shortly, since it is such a significant part of the recording industry. And, you know, with companies like Live Nation as one of the main tour promoters, a big part of the music industry now, which is the part that our company is involved with, is licensing and sync revenue. And that's taking a song or instrumental piece of music and having it placed in, or having it used in, a television show, feature film, commercial. Every television show that you watch, every film that you watch, every commercial you watch has music in it in some way, shape, or form, either at the beginning of the program, during the program, at the end of the program. And all of that music is owned by someone and has to be licensed and synchronized. That means that the music is put on the film or video in timed relation to what is going on the screen. So, you know, you sync it up when someone comes into a room and the music starts. That means that it's synchronized to start when that person comes in. And there are many that music can be acquired by the production company that is making the movie. They can get the music, like from our company, Spirit Production Music. I'm going to show you a quick this is a little recap of some of our highlights as far as shows that we've had our music used in. And this is just a small fraction of the television shows and feature films that we've had our music used in, commercials. We're constantly adding new programs. That's my job, is to go out and present our material for use in these different venues. And we have our music available online to be searched through if people just want to find that right piece of music, especially with our company. Our music can be used as an economical alternative to some of your more well-known pieces of music. If you're interested in a Rihanna track, to use one of Rihanna's tracks in a television commercial, but it's very cost prohibitive to license. You can license a piece of music or get the rights to use a piece of music from Rihanna, but it's going to be very costly, in the tens of thousands of dollars for Rihanna to use her music. But if you would come to us and we find a piece of music in our library of over 180,000 tracks that has a similar feel or sound to a Rihanna track, we can license it to you at a very much lower cost, because we own it all. We own the songwriters, we own the song, we own the recording of it or the master of it, and we can license it to you. And we have composers, as mentioned on this slide, that we have great composers who can create music that will sound. If we don't have something, we can create it. And that's what takes me to the next part of the music industry that is very significant, is music publishing. Uh, Music publishing is who owns the right to grant those licenses, grant the rights for people to use the music, and the music publishers will assemble songwriters, producers. They will find them any number of ways through their connections, through relationships, word of mouth, hearing people online. They have any number of ways of finding songwriters, signing them to their publishing company, which is an agreement to have them write for their publishing company exclusively. And then they would share between the publisher and the songwriter and any income that would be generated by that songwriter's songs. So ownership is the most important aspect of any business, but especially the music business. It's similar to the difference between a Mariah Carey and a Whitney Houston. Both are amazing vocalists. Both are amazing performers. But Whitney Houston was not a songwriter. So whatever song she has, her biggest song, I Will Always Love You, was written by someone else, Dolly Parton. Any of her hit songs were written by other people. So she generated income from being a performer of that song, but she didn't generate any income for herself as a writer of a song. Whereas Mariah Carey, she not only sings the songs, she writes the songs. So her Christmas song, All I Want for Christmas Is You, which is making gazillions of dollars a year from being played on, whenever it's played on the radio, it generates income. Whenever it's played on television, whoever owns that song gets paid by the people that play it. The only reason people play that music is to stop us from doing what we're doing, listen to this music, and then hopefully buy whatever advertising comes after it. So radio stations, television stations, they're benefiting from Mariah Carey's music because it's making people watch their programs or listen to their radio station. And in response to that, they pay Mariah Carey. That's how she makes her money. From sales, from advertising, from performance income, which we'll get into in a second. And all of that money is funneled to the music publishers. Mariah Carey herself is a writer, performer, but she is not necessarily in the mindset of wanting to actually collect all of that money, spending the time and effort to collect that money, making sure that all across the globe, people who owe her money are sending it to her. That's what her music publisher is. That's their job. And that's why they get a percentage of whatever income so that she can focus on the creative side. And there are a number of entities that help with that. As I mentioned, performance income, the money that's generated by music being played on the radio or television has traditionally been collected by performing rights societies, in particular ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC. That's changing now with the digital world that we live in, where people can actually, before, you had to have like staffs and staffs of people who would actually listen to the radio across the country. They would have to go to Des Moines, Iowa and listen, or have somebody stationed in Des Moines, Iowa, who would listen to the radio and then keep a track of when Elvis Presley or Fats Domino or whoever was being played, and then send that information to New York. Now, with the digital world we live in, someone can sit in New York, listen to every single radio station in the world. Well, they don't actually listen, their computers listen to every single radio station in the world and can track when music is being played and then contact those entities that are playing the music and receive payments from them. So there are other companies that are springing up to compete with ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC as far as collecting these performance royalties. That's what it's called. Formed. But once again, music publishers handle that administration as far as the music that's played around the world. You know, now there are countries that kind of flew under the radar. They just didn't have the infrastructure or the technology to track what music was being played in their territories. And now all of those countries are starting to come online. So the growth in the music industry is very exciting for people in the music industry. As we've, with the pandemic, it has had a very adverse effect on a lot of industries. Like I mentioned, the touring industry, the restaurant industry, even in production, since you have to have people together on a set, a movie set to shoot a movie. And with the pandemic, you can't have people that close together. Production pretty much shut down for the most part. And therefore, people weren't making films or television shows, therefore not using music. So it definitely had a negative effect on our company. But overall, the music industry has done well because the streaming services are independent of that. And as people are at home, they need to listen to music. And so the music industry itself has weathered the pandemic better than a lot of industries and only sees growth because there's so many different ways to distribute music now. There are so many different platforms for video. Back in when I grew up, it was the radio and the television. And some of your great grandparents, they didn't even have television. It was just the radio. So now we have television, radio, the internet, streaming services. There's just so many different digital. And all of those use music. With the idea of getting into the music industry, there are people who focus on being in front of the microphone, being artists, being famous. And that's all well and good. But for the most part, the majority of careers in the music business are going to be behind the scenes. And I'm going to share. I just happened to look, you guys can look this kind of stuff up yourselves, but this is a graph that shows the music business professions that can be thought about, and there's different sectors that you can think about where you want to be. Do you want to be on the creative side as a writer or helping to find recording artists as an A&R person, that's artist and repertoire person? Or are you more into handling financial matters or being an artist manager? I forgot to mention artist management is a big part of the music industry. Where you actually would handle the day-to-day activities of a recording artist and help them find someone to do their legal paperwork and help them find a music publisher, help them put together a tour. So if you're good at pulling together a lot of different aspects, then you might be well suited to being a manager, especially if you have patience. I've always viewed artist managers as babysitters who have to be very patient when you're dealing with creative people, which is something I would never want to do. But that is a big part of the music industry. There are any number of other jobs and professions. And I don't know if you guys can see this, but on the right side of the chart, it even gives you an idea of what kind of temperament or what type of personality you would need to do well in these different professions, whether it's being very good being a very organized person, patience, determined. All of those are going to be very important to some degree throughout your career, not only in music business, but in any career, basically. But some of those personality traits would fit better if you would be involved with the legal aspect. And I know a number of people, and I've associated with a number of people who have gotten law degrees and have used that law degree in the music business as far as representing artists, representing companies, drafting documents. That is a very important aspect, especially as the number of ways to make money has grown. It's gotten more complicated. So having a very astute attorney is very important. Someone who handles your finances. We hear the horror stories of recording artists who made tons of money and their affairs were mismanaged, either because they weren't overseeing what was going on with their money, or they trusted people who took advantage of them. So it's best to align yourself with people that you can trust. And it's really going to be having a good team around you that can help you navigate through the waters. I think that was one of the main things that my Uncle Barry was well known for, is that he could do a lot of things. He was a great songwriter, producer, manager of people, but whatever he couldn't do, he was able to identify people who could do that very well and then put them in positions to do that. My own experience of having worked at Motown, it was, I think, a very unique place because it crossed racial boundaries. Even though Motown was a Black-owned company, it always had Black people, white people, Latin people, people from around the world who handled different functions, and men and women. It always had women, since my aunts were very strong and instrumental in the formation of the company. Women were always very involved with the day-to-day operations of Motown. So I don't know if that had always been the case at other record companies. So I may have gotten a kind of a biased view of what the record companies or record business could be. But now we're kind of seeing that more and more as time goes on. And, as I mentioned early on, there weren't really many Black-owned record companies, but once people saw what Motown was able to accomplish, the main record companies either developed Black music divisions and had Black people running them, or other Black music companies run by Black people grew up, whether it was Philly International or Curtom Records with Curtis Mayfield, or Stax. There are a lot of companies kind of followed behind what Barry was able to do. Once someone shows that something can be done, then it kind of opens the floodgates for other people to do it. So, you know, we've all been given the opportunity to kind of follow through what was done before us, the people who really did the heavy lifting for us. And now it's up to us to kind of follow that. People have, that's the good thing. Here's a one slide that I found of some Black music executives, but there are a lot of Black music executives at a lot of companies around the country now, and a lot of people are starting their own companies. I think that that's the paradigm now, is that rather than working for someone else, you create your own company, and it can become a associated company with a larger company, or you can stay independent. Now that's possible. You know, even in the Latin market, even though, you know, South America, Latin America, Central America, they've got full-blown music industries, television industries. Here in the US even, there are a lot of companies that are really embracing the growth of the Latin music market. It's one of the biggest growing markets in the country and the globe. And there are music industry professionals at major companies and at companies that they have started on their own that we can look up to and see people who look like us. And that's the difference. Started Motown, is that just being able to see people that look like us and talk like us and behave like us gives us the idea that we can accomplish and succeed just like they did. The barriers for entry are falling, especially with technology. When I first got into the business, it would take a lot of, you'd have to get an investor to help you get into the recording studio to record your music. And you'd have to have, you know, a gigantic setup of music if you did something on your own. Now, technology has made it where people can create amazing music in the comfort of their home. And then rather than having to actually press vinyl records or CDs and then mail them out or put them in a truck and drive them around somewhere, now you can make amazing music, send somebody a link, and there you go. You're in the music business immediately. It's amazing, which is great. Now, of course, that means that there's going to be a lot more stuff that probably shouldn't see the light of day, but it's all subjective. Who am I to judge what would appeal to somebody? If you want to hear, I don't know, you know, Zydeco music, if you don't even know what Zydeco music is, but if you want to hear what Zydeco music is, you can type it in, find some incredible Zydeco music. If your thing is country music played on a tuba, there is somebody who is making albums for tuba country music. It's amazing, you know. And all of those genres of music have to get out to the public in some way, and then whatever income is generated by that music has to be collected in, as far as who is going to take what role to facilitate that. And it takes learning. You know, there are a lot of people who, you know, Jay-Z is famous for having come from the streets, educating himself, and becoming, like he said, he's not a businessman, he's a businessman, because he has learned how to turn himself into a corporation by learning what needs to be done, and then once again surrounding himself with people who can do that. And he'll find people from the streets or from the schools. I was looking to see what schools, more and more universities, colleges are have degrees in music business. Our company, some of our executives went to Cal State Northridge, and Cal State Northridge has a very strong music department, not only for performing arts, but also for music business, a degree in music business. And we get a lot of interns from Northridge too, people who want to get a hands-on feel for what goes on in the music business beyond the classroom by actually working at a company. And even, right now we're doing it virtually, but you can still get a feel for what goes on. We meet, talk about the different projects that have come through, people looking for this type of music for that commercial, or this type of music for this film. USC has a great music business, music school. We actually provide music for their film school for their students to use in their student films. We have a number of students from Berklee College of Music in Boston. So UCLA, there are dedicated music schools, Los Angeles College of Music. So there are a number of places for you guys to think about attending if you're interested in moving on to studying about the music world beyond high school. I know that that is the goal for Foshay and for other high schools that are getting people ready for that next phase of education. In that, there's been discussion of how important a college degree is. And I, being a graduate of University of Michigan, go Blue, I can't overstate how important it is to me just to know that I've been able to succeed in that environment, to be to develop those kind of networks with other people. So it'd be definitely something to consider as far as how you want to go forward beyond high school. And fortunately, there are a lot of places that you can look into for music to learn more about the music business. So with that being said, I think that's pretty much all I had for my presentation. If there's anyone who has any questions, or I guess I'll leave it up to the teachers to jump in and take it. Definitely appreciate your time and attention, and definitely wish you guys great success.
Thank you. Thank you, Rodney. Yes, the students should have some questions. All right, and they're coming in the chat. Okay. And I don't know if you could see them. I'll read
I
them
see.
off for you.
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay, so Elaine says, being the nephew of someone as influential and important to the community as Barry Gordy, would you say that it allowed you to have a deeper understanding of the world of music than the average person? And would you say any knowledge you learned through that helped you in your career and life in general?
Yes, thank you for that question. Yeah, I mean, it's it's something that Black people in the past hadn't really had a chance to experience, was nepotism. The great way that businesses was already in the business, and who ushered you into the business. Your grandfather owned the pizza store and you became the owner of the pizza store. And fortunately, we're getting to that point now where Black people have had a chance to establish businesses and then pass it down, that generational wealth, that generational knowledge. And I definitely benefited from that, from my uncles, from my father. My father, Robert Gordy, was the head of the Motown publishing company, Joe Bett Music. And so he was able to instill in me a lot of information about the industry. Uh, and a lot of it is not necessarily detailed nuts and bolts of the industry, even though I had a number of different jobs within Motown that taught me that, but it's more about how to think about the industry and how to think creatively about what the possibilities are, not being stuck in a certain box and thinking that I had to fit within these certain parameters. But just being able to speak informally with some of the great Motown producers, just kind of kick it with Norman Whitfield, who produced a lot of the Temptations hits, or Car Wash for in films. And my uncle was Marvin Gaye, and the only time I've ever been on a motorcycle was riding on a motorcycle with him. And just seeing these people once again as just human beings, but also seeing the creativity that they had, the tenacity that they had to continue to work through adverse situations. Um, the stories of the Motown Review going on tour, on their tour bus, going through the South, and their bus being shot at, but that didn't stop them. So those kind of stories being passed down and then disseminated among all of us, we can all share in that, are great testaments that if people want to accomplish something, they're not going to let anything stop them. So yeah, my family was very good. I didn't necessarily have a desire to get into the music industry. I just needed a job. So I, went on ahead and joined the family company. But now, since I've been in it now for over 40 years, it is definitely a great industry to be a part of.
Thank you. And Jade is asking, why did you choose to go to University of Michigan? And I think Mr. Womack also attended the same. He got it ready.
I went to Michigan because I was from Detroit, and I was my mom, when I started getting my college acceptance letters. I initially got into Michigan State first, and I was like, hey, I'm going to go to Michigan State. And then when I got my Michigan letter, my mom was like, you're going to Michigan. I was like, Mom always knows best.
Okay. All right. That's great. A couple of students are asking, how do you get artists or songwriters to sign with you?
Well, that's a great question, because this is a relationship business. This business is all about relationships. And by that, I mean that it's not, you're dealing with creative people, you're dealing with personalities, you're dealing with people who are sensitive, that create. This is not the car factory in Detroit, even though I worked at the car factory. This is, you're dealing with art. So whoever you meet, you establish a feeling level. And if you can communicate to them that you share their vision, then they will be more likely to want to work with you. If you have to force yourself on someone or try to get someone to understand where you're coming from, or you're seeing some type of clay that you can mold into something, um, that's where it kind of crosses the line between the business and the art. So it's about who you mesh well with, uh, and then demonstrating to them that you can be of service to them. Our job is to be of service, and that's one of the main things I like about my job, is that it's a service position. Me to help them realize their dreams, and they don't necessarily want to, or they're not good at making phone calls and calling up production companies or people who can use their music. They want to focus on creating music and singing, and then they want someone else to handle the actual exploitation of that music and that art, and that's where I come in. So if I can find someone, whether it's from a referral from a friend of mine who heard someone, on a not tape. What am I talking about? Tape. I heard somebody online, or they know a friend of a friend who said, "Hey man, check this guy out," or something like that. Musicians that I already know other musicians, so we get a lot of we hear about people through other people. So it's still, once again, word of mouth, relationships. So it's always good to make sure that you put yourself out there, let people know what you can do, what you want to do, and be sure to be kind to people. Nobody wants to work with, Cheryl, nobody wants to work with an asshole. So you want to be kind to people. You want to treat people fairly, because the word will definitely get out if you are not truthful with people, because it is a relationship business. Once your name is mud, it's hard to get out of it unless you're making people a lot of money. There's a lot of people in the business whose name is mud and they don't care because they are able to make people money. So I understand that. But for the most part, it's better to be kind and honest, and try to find some type of focus on the similarities rather than the differences.
Okay, great. Another question is that what aspect of working in the music industry is your favorite?
I just said it. I think working with people, interacting with people. Someone will call me up and say, "Hey, we're working on a commercial. We need something, that builds." It starts off, especially now in the pandemic. It starts off very somber and quiet, and it starts to build and build to a hopeful resolution where there is a brand new day, and we need it by tomorrow. It's got to have a cello, and if we can get a female vocal who sounds like you know SZA, yeah, give me that. I'm like, okay, man. So that's a challenge, and we present it to our creative people. They go to work and start either looking through our catalog and try to find something that's existing that's like that, or they'll go in the studio and try to get something as close as possible to what people are requesting. That's exciting. It's fun. It's the music business. It's not, like I said, I'm not selling shoes. I'm not putting down anyone who works in any of those other industries. But the fact that I get to listen to music, a wide variety of music that I wouldn't necessarily even ever listen to. I've been exposed to a lot of great classical music because people will call us up and say, hey, do you guys have, Beethoven sonata, whatever number of his sonata, or Johann Sebastian Bach, or, Debussy, or whoever. And I may not be familiar with it, but at least I can then go into our catalog and see what we do have and get exposed to some music that I would not necessarily have listened to on my own. Country music. I'm from the 70s, so I'm a disco cat. So, EDM, I listen to that shit all the time. Excuse me. Okay, that must be getting late. I could listen to a lot of different types of music and really enjoy it. So yeah, I like that, and being able to help people solve problems. Um, that's what I like best about the industry.
All right. Diana asks, what is your favorite show you've worked with?
Hmm. I actually watch a lot of HGTV myself, just in my own downtime. So we had our music used in House Hunters, the production company that makes House Hunters, Flipper Flop, a lot of those HGTV shows. So it's always fun to hear those used. I've had music used in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Uh, my coworkers have had stuff in BoJack Horseman, and just shows. I don't think we've had anything in The Simpsons, uh, but yeah, it's fun to have a show that you're going to watch no matter what, and then hear your music in it. It's fun.
Okay, Samantha is asking, what motivates you to keep going and how do you define success?
That's a great question. Um, Being in sales, my day is spent, 98% of my day is spent getting voicemails when I call people, or being told flat out, no, we don't, we already have what we need. We don't need you. Leave us alone. So what keeps me going is keeping in mind that what I'm trying to do is provide a service. I think that that's the thing that keeps me going through life, is knowing that my purpose, I guess what keeps me going is knowing what my purpose is. Whatever your purpose is, I think that's what's going to keep you going. So my particular purpose is to be of service, whether it's to my wife, to my client. So with all the rejection that I get on a daily basis, the only thing that keeps me going is to know, hey, I'm just trying to help. My job is to keep on going until I find somebody I can help. And if I can't help you, that's cool. No hard feelings. Sometimes I take it personally, but most times I don't take it personally. And that keeps me going. It keeps me energized. And then if I get something, that just gives me the fuel to, like, okay, now let's go some more. Yeah, let's get some more of that. Yeah, that was so cool. I loved it. So I'm a pretty positive person, but knowing that I can do something to help somebody keeps me going.
Okay, Emmanuel wants to know, did you have any fears that almost held you back from achieving something you wanted? If so, what did you do to overcome?
Wow, that's awesome, you guys. Um, yeah, man, who wants to fail? Nobody wants to fail. Nobody wants somebody to slam the door in your face. I've had people call people up, and because I have to find a way to get in contact with people. If I watch a TV show and I see the name of the company at the end of the TV show, I call up that company to be of service. Hey man, I've got some great music for you. I found your number somehow, some way. And a guy would be like, how'd you find my number? Okay, lose my number, never call me again. Click. You know, who wants that? But like I said, I overcome that fear by focusing back on my purpose. I wasn't trying to do anything bad. I was trying to be of service to him. I don't take it personally. And there are a lot of people in the world that so it's not a finite, I try to come from a place of abundance rather than scarcity, where I feel as though this failure is not going to define me. So I work on not letting that fear immobilize me, even though it can at times. And I've gotten through it by focusing on my purpose, focusing on what it is that I'm trying to accomplish, knowing that it's a positive thing that I'm trying to accomplish, and believing that, there is a power greater than me that is going to help me accomplish this goal. Even though it may not necessarily even be the goal that I initially set out, that the world, that the universe is actually in my favor and looking out for me. So I guess having a positive worldview helps me get over that fear.
Well, those were some.
Garnered? I'm sorry to interrupt, but is it okay if I ask a quick question?
Okay, go ahead, Anthony.
As an artist, what's the best way to get your name out there?
Well, this is the best time ever to be an artist, really, if you really think about it. Before, you did have to go to record companies or the gatekeepers. That's what they call them, the gatekeepers, the people who control the networks or the radio stations, and you had to get them to do something for you. Now, the internet makes it that the playing field has been leveled, and you can get your music. The best way to get your music out there is to have good music first. Second is to create that music. People who sit at home and think about doing something have a leg down on people who actually think about doing something and doing something, putting something, recording something. And then the internet, there's so much stuff as far as how to break through the clutter is the challenge. So once again, that's the relationships, looking to see who's been successful at doing what you want to do, seeing if you can contact that person and either work with them or get advice on how they made it through. Just grinding, mainly. That's the way you get yourself out there. It's just grinding and being persistent. A lot of people, specifically, a lot of people now are diversifying. Before it was, I'm a recording artist and I'm going to just sit in my room and record, but we know that you can't do that. So finding a way where you can perform live somewhere. Live performances will come back one day. And whether it's at a park, at a local bar, or whatever, when you do that, you also somehow, some way put together some merchandise so that when you're at these events, you either have your CDs pressed up or t-shirts with your influencers nowadays. They really build their social media footprint. So having an extensive social media presence is very important nowadays. So I just made a point for me to make a point to you guys. I can't emphasize how important it is for us going forward to put forth a positive digital footprint. As we heard in the news recently, people's past Twitter postings and IG postings have come back to bite them in the ass because they're putting out garbage, hate and just, things that aren't good. And they'll say, well, I was young, I didn't know anybody. Wait, stop. That's hate. It's just nasty. You shouldn't have put it out in the first place. So don't do that. And the same with music, put out good music, things that you're going to be proud of, that's going to stand the test of time. And then just put it out as far as you can. Put it on TikTok and IG and Facebook and whatever platform you can get it out onto. That's your job. YouTube, that's what you do, man. You just sit there and grind and just put it out everywhere.
Yeah, because I've been grinding for like, I don't know, 3 years now, every single day. So I just wanted some game from like one of the.
And are you seeing some? Are you getting some tiny wins?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's beautiful. Tell everybody about that. Tell people that you talk to. Hey, man, it's the whole Drake record. Come on, we started from the bottom. Now we're here. It's making those small little wins, making those small little steps that will take us to the point where we're going to meet that person, or we're going to hear, somebody's going to hear us here, or we're going to have this idea that we hadn't had before. And it's like, oh shoot, that's it. That's what I should be doing. Little Nas X with his Old Town Road. Come on now. It's like, what? And that worked. So I definitely would say, hey, don't limit yourself either. As long as it's, like I said, as long as it's not negative or hate. And I grew up in the 70s. So, with a lot of the rap, it moved from something that was like, had a positive message, and then it had a different reflection of what was going on in the streets, so it's not necessarily negative. It was like they were broadcasting what was going on. But even then, how it's presented could attract people or repulse people. But at the same time, isn't that what art's supposed to do? All art is supposed to do is generate an emotion. That's all artists do. They want to generate an emotion. And sometimes the emotion they want to generate is repulsion and just, horror, and that's cool too. That's art. But yeah, having how you make it is having a clear view of what it is that you want to communicate, and then stay true to that. We always hear about people who sell out to try to become successful. At the same time, I'm a big fan of if you see something that's successful, in the marketplace, there's nothing wrong with tailoring your presentation to appeal to that marketplace. Give them what they want. Then when you're in the door, give them what you really want to give them. And I don't see that I'm Prince. This is, some radio sounding music. I'm in the door. Now I'm going to really give you what Prince is really about, and you're going to love it. And people did. So, I having a vision, sticking to it.
Well, we're out of time. We appreciate you so much for joining us today, Mr. Gordy. We can't thank you enough. Students, please make sure you fill out the form before you leave. The link is in the chat. And please tell Mr. Gordy thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for even listening. I just wrote down all the game that you gave me, so thank you. I'm gonna read it every time that
I'm a game master. No, I'm not. I saw somebody say that they worked with my cousin Carrie. Yeah, I mean, that's there's a lot of people that you can learn from, and a lot of people to get game from. Just watch who you're getting the game from, because some of it is good game, some of it's not. So just stay true to yourself, and just keep your focus, and like they say, take what you need and leave the rest.
All right, man. Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Right on. You too.
Yeah, that was me. I work with Kerry. I have another show on PBS called Rise and Shine, and he was a guest on the show about a year ago. He's very funny, very charismatic, and had lots of stories about you all, and some other interesting thing about the Jacksons. But Kerry was really cool.
Oh yeah, no, he's got a billion stories.
No, thank you again, sir.
Goodness. You're welcome. All right, so I guess that's it. I hope you guys have a great rest of the day and great weekend. And if you need me to come back, I'd be happy to.
Oh,
Thanks, Mr. Gordy.
Yes. Hey, Rod, tell Robert Jr. and Iris I said hi.
I will indeed. I will indeed. Iris's birthday was a couple weeks ago, and I talked to Robert pretty regularly. Still, he's in Vegas, and he's doing well.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We
All right.
so appreciate you.
All right, you guys take care. I'll talk to you later.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And thank you, Ms. Gonder, Dr. Gonder. I appreciate this.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
I'm not supposed to be here. I'm attending another Zoom right now.
Well, that's how we do it.
Yeah. Very good. I'll see you very soon. We'll have performances for you to attend in about a week or so. Cool. My Black History class performances that I'll have for you.
Okay.
All right. Take care, guys.
All right.
Take care, Ms. Gonder and Mr. Johnson.
All right, you too, Josue.
You too, Josue. That was great, Cheryl.
Yeah, I went better than I thought. So,
Yeah.
it was great.
I think we had close to 120 some participants.
Yeah, cool.
So,
that was so cool.
yeah.
Hope the kids got something out of it.
Yeah, well, it sounds like a few did, so that's great. Yeah.
Okay, I guess I'll go check and see if I have any students for tutoring. I don't
know. Me too. I'm heading there as well.
Okay, have a great weekend.
Thank you too.